Hey y'all, welcome back to Movement Link. So this is gonna be a 10-minute just move, follow along video, and we're gonna do some stretching and we're gonna take it kind of up a notch. We're gonna add a little bit of skill work at the end of this, and we're just gonna play around with some candlestick rolls towards the end. So we'll kind of use this as a general full body flexibility routine, and then we'll move into a little bit of core and skill work and as we play around and possibly learn something new. So we'll just start on the ground here, and we'll start just on your knees. So we're just going to interlock your fingers behind you and push the chest through, and then try and lift your arms up as high as you can. So I'm just lifting them up over and over again. As I do this, especially at the beginning of these routines, I try and put my focus on drawing my belly button in, rib cage down, extending up, and just controlling that position. So if you had your fingers like this, let's go ahead and flip them and just put the other index finger up on top. Same thing. And now what we're going to do is, as we lift up, we're just going to lean forward. We're going to let gravity pull a little bit more. We can lean from side to side, but I'm trying to extend up through the chest, keep my abs flexed, and just let my shoulder blades get stretched by gravity, pulling those hands over. Okay, so now let's just do some arm swings across. We're going thumbs up to the ceiling. Then we're going to go thumbs down. We're going to stick our arms out. We're going to go, one palm goes forward and up, and the other one goes backwards and up. So you're reaching as far away from you as you can as you rotate opposite directions with each arm. Draw that belly button in. Stay tight with that midsection. And try and get consistent breathing. So we're externally rotating one as we internally rotate the other, just switching back and forth here. Now we're going to go from that long lever position to a short lever position, but we're going to do the same thing. So one palm is going to turn towards you and back. The other one is going to turn kind of away from you. You're going to go back and down. So your palms are going to always face behind you. We're just trying to keep that core nice and engaged, your breathing under control. Now it's basically the same thing, but we have a short lever position, so a little bit different musculature and angles here. All right, let's go ahead and get into a tabletop position, or all fours. Get set up just like we'd be doing a push-up. So I'm going to twist into the ground so my elbow pits are forward. I'm going to let my chest drop down so my shoulder blades move to the back, and then I'm going to push away. So notice I'm not doing a cat and cow here. My belly button's drawn in, my back is flat and neutral, and I'm just trying to move the shoulder blades. So nothing wrong with cat and cow, just not what we're doing right now. We're trying to make sure you've got the coordination to move your shoulders without your spine moving around. So now we're going to drop your chest down to the ground. When we do, you're going to shrug your shoulders up, and then we're going to push away. Then we're going to kind of do circles like that. Drop down, shrug up, push away. Drop down, shrug up, push away. We should be doing all of these, focusing on that breath, focusing on the elbow pit, facing forward. One more. Now we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to drop down, shrug your shoulder blades down your back, push away from the floor, and then come back. Just trying to get those shoulder blades moving. Okay, now from all fours, you're going to put your left hand on top of your head. We don't want your weight to shift around here, so draw that belly button in, keep that extension through the chest, but control it with the abs, and just lift up as high as you can. Let's take some breaths. You can even breathe in, hold it, and then let it go, and see if you can get a little bit further, but we don't want to get stuck doing short breaths or get stuck holding our breath. So nice, easy. Then we're going to come back through. Let's go right arm behind the head, lift up, breathing, controlled. Make sure that bottom arm is twisting into the ground just like you would a push-up. So it's about tying the whole system in together. All right, now let's walk your hands forward, thumbs together, twisted in the ground so elbow pits are going up. Shove that head down. You can wiggle around from side to side, but control that rib cage. Okay, now let's go right foot next to our right hand. So we'll go push-up position, right foot next to the right hand. We're going to drop the back knee down today, draw the belly button in, squeeze the butt cheek, draw the belly button in. Let's wiggle around down here. Again, even though I'm not really focusing on this, we always want that shoulder set up just like we would in a push-up. So every position is a squat, a push-up, and a jump. We just want to keep making these connections. Let's go ahead and straighten that leg out, and we're just going to keep it straight. You can flex that foot if you want, and we're just going to wiggle around back here. Just hitting different angles. When I'm going out to the side this way, it's getting kind of gnarly, so I'm just going to keep putting more focus on that position there. Okay, let's switch to the other side. So push-up plank. We're going to go left foot next to our left hand. We'll drop that right knee down. Right butt cheek is flexed, belly button's drawn in. I'm just going to rotate as much as I can, left and right. Whenever we're doing these things, you can always even add in left hand up. Ooh, that's harder, the harder side. Right hand up. You can do those types of things. We're going to straighten that leg, flex the foot, wiggle around. I'm kind of feeling the same thing when I really kind of load it up, leaning in to the outside. So I'm going to spend the majority of my time trying to hit that end range because it kind of feels fine today for me going to the inside. So I'm focusing on the outside a little bit more. Okay, so now let's go ahead and lay down on your back. And let's just focus on core position real fast. So when we're laying down, butt tight, and we want to take that belly button and draw that into our spine. And let's just take some breaths and notice how you should be able to stay drawn in and stay tight and loose enough to breathe. So we shouldn't be squeezing and poofing everything out. We should be drawing in, keeping that nice and tight. So we're using the transverse abdominis, we're using the obliques for general tightness, and we're saving the rectus abdominis for kind of crunching motions here. So now what we're going to do is just put your hands up over your head, try and keep this drawn in, butt tight, and then just lift the shoulders up off the ground a little bit, focusing on keeping that nice and tight here. Then we'll go back down. Then what we're going to do is same thing, butt tight, belly button drawn in, lift the shoulders, and then let's see if we can get feet together and just lift up a little bit here. What we'll see is when I make a mistake, my belly poofs out. So if you look at it, it'll poof out this way, and when I'm doing it correctly, it'll stay nice and engaged this way. So we want to avoid that belly poof because that means we're working around and not coordinating our strongest muscles, and we might need to get it a little tighter. So from that position, up and up, we're going to try and just kind of get rocking here. These are just called hollow rocks. But again, like I talked about, as soon as we lose and get into the belly poof situation, now we're just training an exercise that we don't want to necessarily train. So a good solution for a lot of people is just going to be kind of hanging out in more of a tuck position to get the core engaged the right way, then moving into hollow rock. So just because your feet are out and we're rocking like that doesn't mean we're actually training it the right way. We always want to keep the focus on what the focus needs to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on just a candlestick. We're going to turn this into candlestick rolls, and then we'll finish it up today. So this is the skill we're going to play around with. The candlestick is I'm going to use this hollow rock kind of. I'm going to do a little bit of a pike, and I'm going to try and get my feet high up in the air with a lot of the weight on my shoulders. So we'll just keep your hands out like this. We can kind of pike up, and then we're just going to try and get long. So I'm going to try and mimic that long position that was there. I'm going to come up on my shoulders. I'm just going to stay long and sit up. You can pike, kick up, stay long, and sit up. Okay, so now we're going to use this. So just like an ice skater who's turning like this, as soon as they put their arms in, the angular momentum, I think that's the right term, their angular momentum is going to spin them a lot faster. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to generate power long, and then at the last minute, we're gonna pull our feet into us, and that's gonna create kind of a whipping motion, so we can kind of play around with these things. So the first thing we're gonna do is a lunge, but it ends up kind of looking like you're gonna do a baseball slide or a softball slide. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep the legs long, and then right before they hit the ground, we're gonna pull one leg in, and then that momentum, when I pull that leg in, is gonna spin me up onto my left leg. It's gonna end up helping me lunge up. So what this looks like is I'm gonna come up, come down, pull that leg in, and I'm just gonna use that to kind of go into a lunge. I can get down the opposite way, and then if I'm gonna do the opposite leg, I'm just gonna come down, left one in, and I can use that momentum to go up. So I'll do one a little bit faster, but just kind of spend a little bit of time with me playing around here. And then you can play around with trying to get more and more power. And we get more power the longer we stay, the later, and then when we whip it in at the end, it'll give us that little pop at the end. So staying long, turn it in to get that pop. So that's the first variation to play around with. Feel free to pause the video, play around with it. Something as adults we don't do enough of is just playing around with stuff and looking goofy and being silly. So play around with that. The next one is gonna be doing the exact same thing, and I'm gonna pull my feet in, and instead of going into a lunge position, I'm gonna pull my feet in close to my butt, and I'm gonna try and use that momentum to pop me up into a squat. Something to keep in mind is that if you're at home, really if you're anywhere, it doesn't really matter where you are. If you're at home and you try and do this move and you don't make it up, your momentum can send you running backwards. So make sure that if you're losing the balance, just go right back down to your butt and don't try and run with it back there. So what this one looks like is I'm gonna go up high, come down, and then last minute, pull those feet in. And it's basically just doing a really narrow squat. And that momentum from pulling my feet in kind of pulled me up. So one more time, just coming up, stay long, pull them in, stand up with it. So that's gonna be the next variation, and these are just candlestick rolls. I just realized I might not have said what these are called. So then we'll go one more variation. So again, if you wanna play around with that for a little bit, go ahead and pause the video, play around with it for a little bit. The next variation is gonna be pistols, so candlesticks into a one-legged squat. And I know on the surface, and I know watching it is gonna look very complicated, but the reality is doing a one-legged squat without momentum is much more difficult than doing it with momentum. So these pistols, or the candlestick into a pistol, that momentum can really help you carry it up. But definitely make sure that we've got the one-legged balance to kind of do these squatting positions before we just try it out. But what this one looks like is same thing. We're gonna come up in the candles, into the high one, keep your legs long. At the last minute, you're gonna pull one leg in, kick the other one out in front of you, and then that's gonna help swing us up into that one-legged squat with a little bit of momentum. So play around with it today, some stretching exercises leading into just some playing around with some skill work. What you'll notice yourself doing too is you'll find yourself on the ground either at home, and the one that we use all the time, and you can relate these to Turkish get-ups too, is kind of this baseball slide one. And once you kind of get the skill of that one, you start seeing it crop up in a lot of things out in the real world, and it becomes a skill that you can actually use a lot. Hope this helps. Hope you had fun. Talk to y'all soon.